What I thought here for the next generation, that we would like Michael to be present, but also for you to meet him. How can I convey to people who didn't ever have this experience in words what that was like? The question I posed to everyone, what do you imagine it was like for a person seeking Michael's help to be in Michael's company?
I have someone I know who was interviewed by Michael, and I asked her if she could give me a brief description. Being with Michael in an interview meant that for the first time in my life, I experienced myself as seen and recognized. I was able to speak about experiences that no one else, for whatever reason, had been able to truly hear. And through the interview, Michael helped me be visible to the outsider witness team, and therefore I was in the world in a different way. This was likely the most liberating experience of my entire life.
When Michael was working, he also wove back and forth what people were sharing and bringing it back and constantly checking in, engaging with the parties that they are really, he's really close to their experience. But the one thing that no one has quite said that stood out to me was when he came to that part, in narrative therapy where you're at that evaluating preferences about how, given all of what we know now, how are you wanting to move? Are you wanting to make some new decisions and move forward? Or are you going to stay with what it is that's going on? And the client, I forget the details of the client, but he would not let this person off the hook. He was wanting them to be accountable to themselves in making new decisions, and was right alongside them, prodding them to speak about venturing more fully into the new directions that were emerging. And it took a while, but I loved how he didn't want to have people be on the fence about their lives.
Mm-hmm. Someone here last night was sort of asking me wonderful questions about how I decided to become a therapist and Michael's encouragement that he gave me. And it was just brought back sitting on these orange chairs in the Denver airport. He said he really thinks, like, to be a good therapist, you need to have not just, obviously book knowledge, right? Way more than that. And he thought, and I hope this is true, that I had this skill that he called peripheral vision. And he said, you're hearing the story, but you're seeing like a wider lens of things. And he really, that was really an honor. So I really hold on to that idea of keeping that peripheral vision.
But there was an occasion when we were stuck in a traffic jam as I was taking him to a workshop. And on the radio it had said, this is a really serious traffic jam in the city of Sydney. And so the next thing I know, I'm in one of these wonderful spaces of being interviewed. And it was very, very dear stuff about loss and family, and it was the most beautiful experience to be in that space. The other quick thing to say is that he had a rather cheeky sense of humour. Yeah. So that if you were sitting behind the one-way glass and there was serious stuff being talked, and then suddenly everyone was having a laugh.
The sense of it for me was I was the only person that existed at that moment. Through his attention, through his gaze. And the people behind the screen, I completely forgot they were there. And it was such a welcoming space to say anything I wished to say.
My personal experience of watching many interviews by Michael was that there was a feeling as if his caring for you in those moments ran so deep and so true. And you'd think, oh, this is only for an interview, and when the interview's over, And then I would see Michael years later and instantly re-experience the depth of that caring.
So Michael's been whispering in my ear as other people have been talking. And what he's whispering, nearly shouting, is don't make a goddamn saint out of me. I think that's part of why people get this glow and feel so special, is because they felt special. They didn't feel Michael was special, I don't think. And I think he took great care in finding some way to create a space and a kind of attention and careful consideration of exactly how to ask a question that would allow people to feel that it was perfectly safe to speak about their most closely held hopes and desires.
I felt so seen, and I left with possibilities that weren't there before, that I could think of myself and my own history in a different way.